Remember last week when we spoke to Nick Coulton about Streetfighters, how to modify the front end on your standard looking bike? Well, today we're going to have a look at the chassis modifications and the engine modifications. Let's go and see what he has to say. Hi Nick, and thank you for being with us again. Remember last week we had a look at the front end of this lovely Bimoto SB6. Could you run us through the middle part?
The middle part? Yeah, I guess so. Middle part containing what you would probably think the most important part, the motor. The motor on the SB6 is standard as a GSXR 1100W, the water-cooled engine, and that's remained much the same as in the standard motorcycle. We've dynajetted it, put air filters on. The motors are slightly modified by Bimoto after receiving them from Suzuki. The outlet manifolds are made slightly wider to accept larger diameter downpipes. The bike produces, claim from Bimoto, 148 horsepower. A little bit optimistic, but with the modifications we've done, such as the Vance & Hines CDI ignition box and the carburation modifications, it's probably running close to that now.
Chassis. What did you change in the chassis? Because we know that Bimoto don't use their own engines, they just build...
They always buy in proprietary engines, yeah, Ducati, Suzuki, Honda, Kawasaki.
So did you have to make any changes to the chassis?
No, I mean the major change of this area of the motorcycle is of course the standard Bimoto has a full fairing, whereas of course we've removed that from the bike, as 95% of the Streetfighters have no significant front bodywork to speak of. We've utilised the belly pan just to tidy up this area of the bike, and it complements the cockpit fairing nicely. But the frame itself is much as it left the factory. As standard, the footrest hangers mountings here are quite weak on the SB6, so we beefed them up and fitted a set of GSXR 750 footrest hangers because they were more up to date and a little bit more pleasing to look at. Those
radiators, they have a bit of history behind them, don't they, Nick?
Most Suzuki Streetfighters would tend to use the earlier oil-cooled motor. Although the engines resemble each other, the water-cooled motor, which this is standard, regardless in the Bimoto or the Suzuki, have a very large curved radiator. It doesn't look very nice out in the open. So we actually had a local radiator company build this rad for us to look like an oil cooler and to match the factory-fitted one that's now mounted below it.
We're looking at the rider's seat. So what does he look at in the instruments? What has he got there?
He's got an LED temperature readout. The clocks are a hybrid of GSXR 750 WT and later analogue non-electronic clocks, just because they look nice and because they actually fit in the cockpit well.
That is a very nice petrol tank style.
Yeah, that's this is actually a cover that flows into the monocoque bodywork at the back. The fuel tank itself is underneath the external cover, and when you actually want to get at the motor itself, the whole bodywork lifts off, and then you take the tank off separately.
Yeah, and obviously we'll have a look at the back end in the next programme, won't we, Nick?
Yes.